To have a successful business, it often feels like you have to sacrifice having a killer life. And most of the things that you spend your time doing throughout the day have nothing to do with why you started a business in the first place. I'm Angie Veman with Clutch Businesses. I work with passionate female entrepreneurs who are solving amazing problems in the world. I take them out of their operational abyss into a place where they have more free time and greater fulfillment in their lives. Welcome to Totally Clutch, the Clutch Businesses podcast and blog. Today, we're going to be talking with a very special guest, and we'll be discussing how to find the right online business for you. We'll also have a fun and informative quiz that you can take on your own at the end. I'm Angie Veman with Clutch Businesses, and things have shifted dramatically as a result of the pandemic. Businesses closed, they reopened, and then they closed again. And all of that is forcing people to be spending more and more time online, which can make having an online business really appealing. An online business can take on so many different forms. You can sell services, you can sell digital products or physical products. You can also be an affiliate or a blogger. And with all of those options, it can be really overwhelming to try and figure out what the right business is for you. Sumayya Essack runs Curate the Future, where she works with overachieving yet underfulfilled professionals, and she helps them find their true path. Welcome to Totally Clutch, Sumayya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to give us a little bit about your background and how you came to do the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so my background it's really a combination of a couple of things. It's psychology and counseling, it's HR, and it's business and startups. And so all of that has really come together in being able to help people figure out what's next, whether that's making a career change or, for a lot of people, more and more nowadays wanting to figure out a business as their career change. We're trying to figure out both at the same time. So it's really a question of, what's next for me? And how do I make a choice? How do I get the guts to go for it? And then how do I figure out how I'm going to make it happen? What's my plan going to be? So that's the background in a nutshell, and what things really look like.
Yeah, that's great. And so you always start with all of your clients with clarity. So you take all of these incredible ideas that they have for a business and filter them down into one. Do you ever work with people that don't have a specific idea in mind about the business that they want to run?
So most of my people tend to be folks who either have too many ideas and they're finding it hard to choose, and they're kind of all over the place, and they want to do everything and they don't know what it is that they should choose, or they have narrowed it down a little bit more to an idea. They have an idea of where they want to go, but it's not clear enough yet that they're ready to really run with it. So it's a little bit vague. They kind of know that they want to go in that direction, but they don't know where to begin, and they haven't quite hammered out all the details of what it's really going to look like. So those two tend to be really my folks. And I would say those are like two stages of clarity. And then before even all of that, you've got the first stage, which is where you probably don't have any clarity. You might not have any ideas. So I'm really working usually with people who are in those second two categories, but like it's all a journey. You usually start by, let's say, knowing that you want to have a business, but you probably don't have any ideas yet, not really. And then at some point you start brainstorming and you get excited about different things and you've got too many ideas, and then you're like, okay, how do I choose? And then you do narrow it down and you've got some kind of a direction, but you don't have the details hammered out, like I said. So those are sort of the three phases. My folks fall into the second two, but if you are in the first category and you know that you want a business, but you're not sure what, and you don't even know yet what to explore, a couple things that you could start thinking about would be like, what do you love? What are you good at? Because ultimately what you want to choose, you want it to align with three different things. You want it to be based on what you're good at. You want it to be based on what you love or what you're interested in, and you want it to be something that you can get paid for. So that's sort of the sweet spot that you're looking for. And then, besides all of those things, you want to be thinking about the business model itself and asking yourself questions like, what kind of time do I have? Am I more interested in products or services? Am I more interested in something that's, more high ticket and therefore going to be potentially low volume? Or do I want to go with something that is a lower price point and it's going to be high volume? Because all of those different things determine a lot about what your business model is going to look like and how you're going to be spending your time, what kinds of activities you need to do, what kind of skills you need to be good at, how you're going to market. So you need to be thinking about, can I get paid for this? Is there a market for it? Can I be good at it? Do I love it? And then how can you align all of that with the business model itself?
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of people think that they can't make money doing something that they are really excited about or really love?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that question comes up there a lot. They're like, I have an idea, but would anybody really pay me for this? And I'm
Right.
like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And it's not that I have a crystal ball or anything. And different ideas are marketable to a different degree. But for the most part, the ideas that people come to me with are things that instinctually, there is a market for. And
Mhm.
they're usually things that other people are already doing. And
Sure.
if other people are already doing it, that shows you that you can get paid for it.
Mhm.
So they're kind of questioning, is my idea viable? But I think what they're really questioning is, can I do it? Right? Like, do
Mhm.
I have what it takes to get paid for this thing? Even if I know
Mhm.
it is a marketable idea, do I have what it takes to make it work? And that's usually what they're really asking.
Yeah. Yeah, and can they make a lot of money doing it, right? Like, it doesn't have to just be a side hustle. I think that's one thing that I've found so interesting is that we are finding so many fun and creative ways to make money and to make the amount of money that we want to be making, right? It's not just to funnel or to fund kind of these fun activities that we're doing here and there. It's we can really make and create a lifestyle out of it.
Yes, you totally can. And it partly
Mm.
depends on your goals, right? So maybe some people do want to start a business just because they do want it to be a side gig and they just want it
Mhm.
to be some extra income. And that's totally cool. It's one way to look at it, it's one kind of goal. But if you do want to make a lot of money with it, it is most likely possible to do it. It's a different ball game, right? And it
Mhm.
might take more time and it's a different set of skills and things that you have to learn. It's a different mindset. But if that's what you want, it's most likely very, very possible.
Yeah, that's so great. I feel like probably the most inspiring thing that anybody could hear that's considering this.
It is. It's so
So,
funny because people come to me with these ideas like, this is my idea. I'm not sure if I could really get paid for it.
mhm.
And I, just being in this kind of world a little bit, have an idea of what are the types of things people pay for. And I am like,
Yeah.
yes, you can get paid for this and you can get paid really well. Like you have
Yeah.
a really good idea. Stop
Mhm.
tiptoeing around it. I can tell you that this is something that would absolutely work. So they maybe
Yeah.
just need to hear that from an external source a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, most of the ideas I hear are completely viable.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I get the sense that they are walking away really excited after working with you. Do you find that people are excited to start the work, or are they a little bit apprehensive generally?
So here's what happens. And I would say this happens for most everybody. And it's good to know about it ahead of time so that it doesn't catch you by surprise. So what happens is at the very beginning, they are excited because they've got this idea. And let's say they've taken steps to go and get help with it. So, okay, now they're taking it seriously, right? They're like, I'm doing this and I believe in this and I'm getting help and here we go and I'm excited. So they're kind of up here, right? They're really excited. And then what happens though as you get into it is it starts to get a little bit tougher. As you start to get into, okay, these are the things I need to learn, this is what I need to do, these are the things that I don't know. And of course, that can be a little bit discouraging. So if you imagine it like a U curve, like your excitement at the top at some point will probably start to plummet and you find yourself at the bottom. And now that excitement has turned to discouragement. And that's when a lot of people give up, because it's not as fun and exciting anymore. And it's like they didn't know what they didn't know. And now they're realizing, okay, this is going to be challenging. And that's when too many people give up, because if you keep going, if you push through all those things that you need to do or what you need to learn, you'll come back to the top of that curve and then you'll get excited again. And you're like, okay, I overcame that. I know that I can do this. I overcame that challenge and had a win. So now I'm back to being excited. And the thing is that the whole journey is like that all the time, up and down.
Yeah.
So you've got to imagine it as like just U curve after U curve. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. And you know, that happens in seasons. It happens within the month, the week. It's every day you're going to be up and down. And so if you expect that, if you know that it's not going to be excitement all the time, then you'll stick with it. You know what I mean? Like then you'll keep going, you'll persist. So the excitement is absolutely normal at the beginning. I rarely see people who take on this journey without being excited, because they're starting by, you know, having a vision and a goal for themselves and a dream, and they're starting to take it seriously, and that feels great, right? So they start with the excitement. I don't usually see the opposite, but I do see, you know, when that excitement kind of turns into a trough, that's when I do see people start to drop out. And I try to prepare them for that, because it's absolutely normal. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It doesn't mean your idea is not viable. It's part of the journey, and you just have to keep going. So it's that excitement going up and down and up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the sense that is it drops when it starts to feel really real. When it starts to take some identifiable form.
Yes.
You're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, because it's one thing to start with an idea and your vision and your dream, and then it's another thing to be challenged with the things that, okay, now in reality you have to do, and they're challenging you because maybe it's new or it's a little bit scary in some way. And that's when people, you know, start to back off, and the excitement starts to wane.
Yeah. So is that related to mindset? So you had mentioned that mindset is a really important thing for people that are starting a business or starting out in a business. That's something that is really important for them. And so is that related to kind of that curve?
100%, yes. So honestly, most of this whole game is mindset. And I say that because if you think about, you know, someone could give you the exact strategy that you need. They could give you a paint by numbers formula, but if your head is not in the game to go for it, if you're not ready to challenge yourself, to persist, to face those fears, whatever, then it doesn't matter if you've got the roadmap right in front of you. And, you know, in the beginning, there's definitely a lot of like strategic and tactical stuff that you need to know. But what you're doing by starting a business is really you're becoming a different type of person, because it's very different to be an employee versus to be a business owner. It's a very different shift, and it challenges you in different ways. And it's like, you know, you might have heard the phrase, you know, what got you here won't get you there. And so you have to grow in a totally new level, and it's challenging, but this is, I would say, like the best journey to help you become the best version of yourself, because it's going to challenge you in those ways that are going to help you grow and prove to yourself that, yes, you can do it. So when you think about that U curve, let's say, getting excited and then getting discouraged and up and down like that, the mindset piece is, you know, learning to be prepared for that trough. And it's being ready to persist. And it's learning how to coach yourself through those moments so that you don't give up. And so 100%, it's all related. And, you know, when I got started, I was just like, well, just tell me what to do. That's all I need, right? And then as I got into it, I was like, whoa, okay, this is challenging me in ways that I didn't expect. And I think that is also part of the journey. You might not realize at the outset how important the mindset piece is, but as you get into it, it becomes just a huge part of your focus. So it's absolutely all related. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I think so. It's when you own a business, I feel like to really do it, to really succeed, you have to know yourself and be so true to yourself. And it really is, it becomes an expression of who you are. I mean, your business is not just for you. Obviously, you're there to serve your customers and your clients, but it really is about fully stepping into who you are as a person, how you communicate, how you, like you said, how you manage yourself and manage those ups and downs. And it's interesting because you see that a lot of people start businesses later in life, so in their 40s and their 50s and even in their 60s. And I just turned 40, and there's a, you just start to understand yourself in such a different way, and it's non-negotiable to hold that back at this point. It feels like every year I want to express that more and more and more. And so it's interesting to see that, that I guess that projection or trajectory that people are starting businesses later in life because they're living with authenticity in a way that they hadn't up until that point.
Yeah, exactly. They're getting to a point where they are fed up with the status quo and they finally want that meaning, that fulfillment, that impact, purpose, whatever you call it, whatever resonates with you. And they get to a point where they're like, it's time. Like, what am I waiting for? I've been checking the boxes for the last 10 or 20 years, like we were taught to do. And that has its own rewards, but not necessarily the fulfillment. And I think we hold back a lot of the times on our own dreams because we're scared of what people will think, or, we're just scared of what's going to happen. And I think as you get to that stage where you're like, no, I have to be me. I have to do whatever it is that I want to do. You're like, enough is enough. I've just got to go do it. And it's still going to be challenging, but you do get to this point where you're like, you know what? This is what I want. It's time. Let's do it.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so do you have a favorite success story of somebody that you've worked with that started a business and is just blown up, either blown up from a personal standpoint or a business standpoint?
Yeah, I do. And the successes are different for each person, right? For some people, it really is financial. For other people, it's kind of finding themselves or overcoming their fears. So a couple would be, I had one person who came to me and she said that she knew she wanted to start a business, but she wasn't totally sure what. And she had an idea that would basically have been taking what she did in her day job and kind of striking out on her own and being a consultant. And I could hear in her voice the very first time we spoke that she was not excited about that idea. But it was the only idea that she had. So that's where she started. And I could tell that it was really a should kind of business. So meaning, it's not what she really wanted, but she thought, well, this is what I should do if I want to start a business, because this is what I know. This kind of seems like the obvious next step. And she certainly could have, and she could have been successful. And it's not that that's a bad thing to do, to take what you do in your day job and strike out on your own. But I could just hear that it wasn't what she wanted. And so it was kind of a journey of her like letting go of that whole identity of what she did in her day job and assuming that that's what would have to continue for her and become then her business. So she had to drop that whole identity and really get back in touch with what it was that she loved at this stage of her life. Like, what did she want this new chapter to look like? And she went in a totally different direction. And it was still a direction where she could leverage, her skills and her background from corporate, but it was in a much, just a direction that was much more aligned with what she loved at this stage and what was important to her and what she wanted. So she ended up going in a different direction, but she recognized that as a personal journey where she had to let go of that identity that she had taken with her for 20 years and start to see herself in a new light. Because the identity piece is a big part of it, kind of, because you're stepping into this new chapter and this new version of yourself. So the identity is really wrapped up in it. And that was exciting to see her go through that.
Really cool.
Yeah. And then another one is, so I had someone who also wanted to take the parts of her day job that she loved and strike out on her own with it as a consultant. but she wanted to do it differently. She didn't want to just go like literally what she did for work and go do it on her own. She wanted to work with a different type of client. She wanted to incorporate other things that she loved into this skill set. So she was trying to find like her own way of taking what she knew, but putting her own spin on it. And her whole thing was being really nervous about whether or not she could do it. And like, how do I put a proposal out there? How do I become a consultant? Can I get paid to do this? And within a couple months, she had her first contract, and it was $30,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And then a couple months later, her next contract that she was negotiating was well into the six figures.
Wow.
And I'm like, if that's not real, I don't know what is. So I'm like, do you think you can do it now? And she's like, yes, I think I can do it. Yes.
Yeah, that's some serious validation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. Awesome. Okay, so working with you is obviously best case scenario for somebody that is looking to start a business and specifically in this case an online business, but that might not be possible for everybody. So are there things that people can do in the meantime on their own?
Definitely.
Okay.
And I think what you want to do probably aligns with those three different stages of clarity that I mentioned. So if you're at the point where you're thinking about starting a business, but you really don't have any ideas, I would suggest just letting yourself brainstorm. And again, thinking about those three things. What am I good at? What do I love? What do I think I can get paid for? And just starting by coming up with ideas that you think would be viable. You don't have to choose yet, and you don't have to prove it as a viable idea yet, but just start getting the wheels turning about what you think could be possible, what the potential ideas could be. So that would be the first stage. That's what I would recommend. Just brainstorming, considering those three different things. And if you're at the second stage where you have too many ideas and you're finding it hard to choose, the first thing I would suggest is just an easy exercise where I would want you to get all of your ideas out on paper. Because usually they're all jumbled around in your head. You're like, well, what about this? What about that? And you've got just everything bouncing around. So get it out of your head and get it onto paper, and just write down really simple things like in a simple chart, a table. Like, what do I love about this idea? What am I not sure about with this idea? What do I maybe not love? What questions do I have about this idea that I would need to get answered to see if it would be the right one? And just kind of map it all out. And when you get it out of your head, you feel a little bit less anxious to begin with, and you start to see things a little bit more clearly, and you see, maybe what your next actions could be when you see your different ideas. And if you're at the point where you're at the third stage, you've got some kind of an idea, it's still a little bit vague, that's the point where you probably need to start really testing it out and prototyping it, as I say, where you've got to take that idea and start working with it a little bit in the real world, talking to people, getting some feedback, doing some example projects for people, putting your service out there. You just got to try it out in some way, and that'll help you clarify the idea. Because the thing is that you can't get the clarity only from thinking about it in your head. Right. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make. They're trying to only think about it, trying to think their way to clarity. But with a business, you've got to just get real world feedback. And so if your idea is like kind of there, the way you're going to validate it or make a decision or refine it is by prototyping it and taking it out into the real world. So those would be the actions that I would suggest based on, what stage you're at.
Yeah, so it's kind of like different levels of trying it on, right? It sounds like. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really great. Really great. And then you have a free course or free training that you offer. Would that be good for somebody that's trying to figure out if a business is right for them?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're at the point where, you're thinking about what's next, but you're not sure, maybe you have so many ideas, or you're just really not sure how to, where to begin or how to start thinking about your ideas, I would definitely recommend this training. It's quick. It's like 40 minutes. There's the URL, or that's the homepage for the website. But if you go to curatethefuture.com/4steps, it'll take you to that training, and it'll just walk you through a simple framework to show you kind of the three main things that you need to have in place in order to, to take your idea into the real world and to make it happen. And it's all about clarity, basically getting clear, getting the guts to go for it, and then starting to see how you would make things happen. So it's a simple place to start, to just try to, organize your thinking a little bit and have a framework to work with.
Yeah, that's great. Simple but important, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, is there anything else, any last thoughts you want to share before we wrap up?
I would just say, do it. If you want to do it, just take the next step, even, wherever you are, and everyone's at a different point, like we've been talking about, right? Just take the next step, whether that is doing a little bit of research, testing your idea, brainstorming, getting help if you need help. Everybody has different, priorities or different ways that they want to go about it. They want to go at a different speed. They're at different levels of readiness in terms of how ready they are to really hit the gas on this.
Yeah.
But whatever it is, just take the next step and know that you can do it. And I promise you, no matter what happens, even if the whole thing blows up in your face, you will be so much happier that you went for it compared to the regret that you're going to feel if you look back and say, I never even tried because I was scared.
That's awesome.
So you've just got to go for it. You'll be happy that you did, because you can do so much more than you think you can. You can do scary things.
Yeah.
And you're totally capable. So just do it. Like, people are doing this every day. People are starting businesses every day, and just do it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Sumayya, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And for anybody that is interested in finding out more about the work that you do, they can visit curatethefuture.com.
Yep.
And find out more about your work. And then, do you have a preferred way that people contact you or reach out to you?
You could just send me a DM on, let's say, Instagram at Curate the Future. You can follow me there, send me a message, and I respond to every single one. So if you've got questions or you just want to get in touch, I would be happy to hear from anybody.
Yeah, that's great. Very cool. Yeah, and I'm so excited to see what any listeners do with what you've shared. It's been so insightful and so helpful. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just less thinking, more doing. That's all.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
it.
such an important reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got like I shouldn't say little, it's a fun quiz that if you're interested in finding out today what the right online business would be for you, you can take a quiz at clutchbusinesses.com/online biz quiz. And hopefully that'll give you some insight. And then if you want to take that further, develop that idea further, you can reach out to Sumayya and start to pull it apart.
Yeah, awesome.
Pull it apart and put it back together, I guess.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. And please remember that I believe in you and I believe in your business.
Love